If you are like the majority of those who listen to Health with Hashimoto's, every single morning you open up a prescription bottle, probably for levothyroxine, Thyroid, something like that, maybe also for a T3 medication, Thyroid, levothyroxine, or T4. And maybe every single time you refill that prescription, you're like, I wonder if there is a way that I can save money. That's what we're talking about today. Welcome to the Health with Hashimoto's podcast. This is where you will find clarity and simple, sustainable strategies to feel better. I want to help you figure out your root causes. My name is Esther Youngkin. I am a registered nurse. I know how exhausting it is to live with fatigue, brain fog, and the ups and downs of Hashimoto's. And that is why I'm here. I'm here to cut through the confusion and to give you practical steps that support your body, calm your immune system, so that you can regain your energy and feel like yourself again. So today we are comparing 3 different pharmaceutical programs to find out how you can save money. And first, let's talk about the most common medications that people with hypothyroid, which Hashimoto's typically causes, what are the most popular medications or most common medications that people with hypothyroidism take? Number 1 is a T4 medication. T4 is the hormone that your thyroid produces. It is the inactive thyroid hormone. Think of it like a key blank that you would get from the hardware store. You go and pick out the design of your key, what you want it to look like, what color the key is. That's the blank. And then you take it up to the counter, you give them your regular key, and then they duplicate that regular key onto the key blank. Your new key that they just made for you, that is the T3. That is the active key. That is what every single cell in your body needs to turn on. It needs that key. It needs the T3. Well, when your thyroid produces T4, your body is supposed to transform that. It's supposed to make the active key, which is T3. If you don't have all of the micronutrients that your body needs in order to make that conversion, it's not going to happen. And then, of course, you will need a pharmaceutical supplement, a medication. It's really just a supplement. But since it's not herbs and vitamins and things like that, we don't call it a supplement, we call it a medicine, because that is what it is. But it is to supplement what your body cannot do. So T4 is the thing that your thyroid typically makes. T3 is what your cells use. And both of those are very common medications. So what kind of names do they go by? Well, T4 most commonly is called Thyroid. That's the brand name, is the most prescribed brand in, I believe, the world. Levoxyl is another one. Tyrosint or Tyrosint gel. These two, they don't have as many fillers. So if you are sensitive, these are good. They are a little bit more expensive, but it's a T4. Unithroid is another one, Levo-T, Euthyrox. There's a couple of different other T4. T3 only medications, Cytomel and Triostat. Those are the most common T3 medications. There are also combination T4 plus T3 medications. Armour Thyroid is the most popular. We've talked about that one on this podcast before. And P-Thyroid is another one. Nature Thyroid. There are a couple that are those combination. So those are the most common medications, but there are other medications that are very common in the Hashimoto's world. One of those is LDN. We talked about this. I interviewed a pharmacist. I believe it's episode 129 if you want to know about that. And LDN kind of helps everything work better. It decreases your inflammation, and it really helps anybody who has an autoimmune condition. So that one is another common medication. That one, the LD, stands for low dose. It is a very, very, very small amount of the medication, so you cannot get that one at a typical pharmacy because it is such a low dose. It has to be compounded. So for LDN, you most likely have to go to a compounding pharmacist. You can not get that one at your typical Walgreens or Walmart or local pharmacy. Another common medication for people with hypothyroidism is vitamin D. Now, this one you can get as a supplement. I get mine on Fullscript. That's where I get most of my supplements. But in addition to being an over-the-counter supplement, you can also get it as a prescription. The first time I got my labs done, including a vitamin D lab, It was pretty low. Now, I say pretty low because I know that the current recommendations is around 80 to 100, but that is not considered, normal for the conventional medical people. When they would have seen my original labs, which was in the 40s, they would have been like, okay, cool, you are good. Well, I know that I'm not good. It has to be between 80 and 100 if I want optimal health as far as everything that the vitamin D produces in me and impacts. So when I got that result, my nurse practitioner wrote a prescription and it was like massive doses of vitamin D. And it was like a once a week tablet, I want to say, and I got it from the pharmacy. So vitamin D you can get as a pharmaceutical or as a supplement. Those four are probably the most common things for the Hashimoto's world, and we have talked about all of them on this show before. The topic today is how do you get them the cheapest? Now, I don't know if you saw in the news, really depends on where you consume your news, the government came out with TrumpRx. My initial thought, I'm going to just be completely honest, my initial thought was, why do we have to have the president's name assigned to this? And somebody was like, you mean like Obamacare? Like, oh, right. I mean, I guess there is precedence, right? We still talk about Obamacare, and Obama hasn't been president in a very, very long time. So TrumpRx is the government program designed to get you most favored nation pricing. So it says on the website, America is being overcharged for medicine. The same drugs made in the same factories at the same dosages are costing Americans up to 1,000% more than in any other country. This is unacceptable. So that is where TrumpRx came from, designed to get you the best price. It is not through insurance. TrumpRx is typically cash pay. If you have insurance, it even says on the website to check your copay and make sure that you're actually going to be saving money. Now, I had heard of TrumpRx as soon as it, hit the news because I am on X and I get news from a variety of sources on Twitter/X. I also knew about there's two other things that I want to talk about, and that is Mark Cuban's program, and that's called Cost Plus. And then I also knew that there was GoodRx. I have used GoodRx before in looking up drug prices. So my initial thought was, how does TrumpRx compare to GoodRx and Cost Plus? Well, it turns out that TrumpRx and GoodRx are the same thing. Okay, so maybe they're not like identical. If you go on TrumpRx, it's probably not going to say we use GoodRx, but I talked to a pharmacist and I have done some more research, and it looks like it's the same prices, it's the same medications available. However, GoodRx has more. TrumpRx is starting out with just a few. I think there's like around 50 right now as I record this, and GoodRx has a lot more. Both of these get you the cheapest price, and both of them are not insurance. In other words, you cannot use your insurance if you are using these programs. You need to cash pay. And if you cash pay, you cannot submit that to your insurance saying, I paid for this. You do that with other things and you submit your receipt to insurance companies and they apply it to your deductible or something. You cannot do that with these two programs. All right, so both of these two programs are local. Like, you're going to walk into the pharmacy and you're going to pick up your medications. You're going to pay cash. You're not going to use insurance. I will add a caveat that not all pharmacies accept these two programs. I called my local pharmacy, and I live in a very, very small town. Like, we don't even have a stoplight. We are a very small town. I talked to the pharmacist and she said that they do not accept it. It's more, these two programs are more for bigger pharmacies. And that is because of the bulk discount. She said, if big pharmacy, let's say Walmart or Walgreens, buys a medication and they buy it in bulk, so they get a really steep discount, they can charge you the GoodRx or the TrumpRx price and still make money. She said for this particular pharmacy, because they are so small, they can't buy in bulk. And this means they have to pay a higher price. If they pay their higher price and then they charge you the price that's listed on GoodRx or TrumpRx, they end up losing money. She said if they accepted TrumpRx and GoodRx pricing, they would go out of business. So it really is dependent on your pharmacy. And you want to call ahead or look on their website or somehow figure out, are they going to accept this? Are you going to get the price? My local pharmacy, they did say that they have a cash program so that they can offer people the lowest price that they are able to offer without going out of business. But this pharmacy, as well as others around the country, they just fiscally cannot honor TrumpRx and GoodRx. So let's talk about the third option. There are 3 different pharmaceutical programs we're talking about: TrumpRx, GoodRx, and then the other one is Mark Cuban's program, which is called Cost Plus Drugs. And this one offers generics. And it is an online pharmacy. So you're going to upload your prescription, or have your doctor send it in, and then they will fill it and they will ship it to you. Again, this is cash pay only. They do not deal with insurance, and their pricing is fairly straightforward. It is the manufacturing cost plus a 15% markup plus a $5 pharmacy fee plus the shipping. And that is your price. So it's going to be a little different than TrumpRx and GoodRx, but it's going to be fairly consistent. You're going to get that lowest price, the manufacturing price, and then a 15% markup and $5 for labor. And then there's shipping, which is fairly standard, I believe, for most of the online pharmacies. So let's put this into the real world. Let's say you are taking levothyroxine every single morning and you take 100 micrograms and you are going to fill a 90-day supply. Let's start out with the cost plus drugs because we can get all the numbers here. So the manufacturing cost for 100 microgram tablets, a 90-day supply, is $2.84. That's what it costs to make the tablets, which is not very much. Right? A 15% markup on that is going to be 43 cents, plus $5 of pharmacy labor, and then $5.25 of shipping. Your total price for 90 days of 100 micrograms of levothyroxine is going to be $8.27. We're going to compare this to the same thing on GoodRx. So this is using the GoodRx, and then you're going to take the certificate or coupon that they give you, and you're going to take it to the actual pharmacy. Now, GoodRx gives you a bunch of different pharmacies to go to. So when I type in levothyroxine, 100 micrograms, 90-day supply, I get 8 different pharmacies. And the price ranges between $10 at Walmart, and the highest one is CVS, which is $46. And there's all different prices in between. So that is via GoodRx. And when I'm using TrumpRx, then the price is $45.90. All right, so let's try T3. So those medications, that was T4, that was your generic Synthroid. T3 is Cytomel. That's the brand name. The generic is levothyroxine. And on GoodRx, it says, when I type it in, it tells me those two things. The brand name is Cytomel and the generic is levothyroxine. And you would think the brand name is always more expensive, right? But this pops up to tell me that the brand name might actually be cheaper. So according to the pop-up, it says that the Cytomel brand name, if you're using their exclusive discount, it'll be $18 versus the generic, which is $38.55. And those two prices, I think, were for the 30-day supply of a 5 microgram. But we are comparing a common dosage, which is 25 micrograms, and we're doing 90-day supply. So on GoodRx, the brand name, which is cheaper on GoodRx than the generic, the brand name Cytomel, 25 micrograms, 90 tablets, that ranges from $25.20 all the way up. Nope, every single one across the board is $25.20. And that is if you print, email, or text this coupon to yourself and present it to the pharmacy that you're going to. The Cytomel on TrumpRx, 25 micrograms, and they're not doing a 90-day supply. They will only do 30-day supply. That one is $8.40. So quick math, if you multiply that times 3, you're going to get about the same price on TrumpRx and GoodRx. And what about on the Mark Cuban Cost Plus? It feels silly to have to say his name every time, but his name is right in the name of the website. It's Mark Cuban Cost Plus Drug Company. Anyway, on this one, same thing, 25 micrograms and a 90-day count. You're going to pay only $16.93. I tried to do a comparison of the LDN prescription on these three sites, and none of them offer it, which is what I expected. That is something that I have found in the past because it has to be compounded. So you have to talk to a compounding pharmacy, and they will typically ship it to you, or you can go and visit the compounding pharmacy that I use for my LDN is like an hour and a half, 2 hours away. And so I pay for them to ship it. Super easy peasy. These three pharmacy sites do not have LDN as an option. So then I turned to vitamin D. We're looking at the four most common things that I see people with hypothyroidism take for their health. Vitamin D, like I said before, it does come over the counter. You can get it from Full Script. You can get it from, your local drugstore. You can get it from anywhere. You can get it from Target, Walmart. It is a vitamin. You can also get it as a prescription. Vitamin D comes in D2 and D3. Now, when I am talking to somebody and we're looking at their labs and we see that their vitamin D lab is not ideal, so between 80 and 100, then they want to know how they can get it up. And they can get it up with a prescription vitamin D or an over-the-counter. There are two different forms, D2 and D3. I always recommend D3 with K2. Now, this is because of the way that vitamin D and vitamin K and calcium all work together. They have to all be there in order to tell the other ones to do their job. So D3 with K2 is what I will always turn to for vitamin D. As far as dosing goes, vitamin D used to come in international units, and now it has shifted. So back when it was international units, you might still see your bottles say IU. The standard was anywhere between 1,000 international units a day. I had some doctors say 5,000 international units per day. When I was pregnant with all of my babies, that is what the recommendation was for pregnant women, was 5,000. And then as I was breastfeeding, then it was at least 5,000 because you need enough for you and for baby. There's different recommendations. You really need to know your lab on this one. And so I recommend getting your lab checked at least once a year and adjusting from there. But international units are no longer typically used on vitamin D. Now it comes in micrograms. So 1,000 international units is 25 micrograms, which means 4,000 international units is 100 micrograms. And that is what I take 5 days a week for based on my lab results over the last couple of years and experimenting with how much D I'm taking. In order for me to stay between 80 and 100, personally, I take 4,000 micrograms 5 out of every 7 days. And that keeps me in that range. Some people need more. Some people need less. If you are going to get vitamin D with a prescription, it's probably going to be D2 instead of D3. It's probably not going to come with the K2. Like I said, I always want D3 with K2. If you're going to get it with a prescription, it's typically D2, and it's going to be a massive dose, and you're going to take it about once a week. I'm at 12 capsules, so that would be 12 weeks of vitamin D2 at a dose of 1.25 milligrams. That is 50,000 international units. You're going to pay $10.07 on GoodRx and $7.64 on Mark Cuban's Cost Plus drug company. So what are the biggest things that you want to walk away from this episode from? Well, you want to do your research. Always do your research. You are the CEO of your own health. You make the decisions your doctor is recommending based on the best of his or her ability, and you get to take that information and apply it to what works right now. And so what is important to you? Is supporting the local pharmacy important to you? If that was my top thing, I would go to my local pharmacy, which does not participate in GoodRx or TrumpRx. And obviously, the Cost Plus is mail order. So if supporting a small business, a family business, a community business is important to me, then that is what I'm going to pick. If you value online ease, doing everything virtually, having your stuff come in the mail, 90-day supply, you don't really have to think about it, then maybe you're going to want to use the cost plus, because just upload the prescription and get a 90-day supply in your mailbox. It depends on what you value and what works for right now in this season of life. But thankfully, it does not take long to compare these so that you can figure out what is the best situation for you right now. You can even just type it into AI. I personally use Grok because I feel like it gives me the most reliable stuff. It hallucinates less than the other AIs at this time. And you can just say, this is my medication, this is my dose, this is how many days I want in my supply. Please compare the costs. And it will. I will add that for thyroid medication specifically, it is advised to stick with one manufacturer, one brand, after you find a version that keeps your symptoms and your TSH stable. It is the one medication that I have noticed throughout my years in the ER that so many people say, I have to have the brand name. I have to have this specific one. So find one that works for you, stick with that, and find the best price. I hope this has been super helpful. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. Please discuss any changes with your trusted healthcare provider. To take your next step, join our school community and explore the courses available there. You do not have to figure your health out alone. So that is school, SKOOL.com, and it is the Health with Hashimoto's community. I'll see you next time on the Health with Hashimoto's podcast.